Alright guys, we are back with some more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and it seems like things are getting even more hectic than usual in this particular trial. So we're going to continue on from there guys and see where it takes us, so I hope you all continue to enjoy watching, and let's do this. Alright guys, and we are back. I intend to uncover the truth. There's no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. If I knew it was going to end there, I should have ended the video at that point. Alright, well, it's cool. I have considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury. And I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to this procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman? We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds in which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. Oh, here we go. Alright, number one, the accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. Number 2, if there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Dearie me, it was only a little book, hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. She's honest. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tiny bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. Yes, considerably more tangible arguments from all members of the jury this time around, it seems. With one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover... Yeah, how many of those has he thrown already? No one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way. That means I'm afraid that during this summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Who stabbed the woman and how? Those 2 details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And there I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel? Oh, yes, my lord. Alright, Vianosuke, focus your mind now. Oh, a double slap. Clearly, the key to this summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid, or should I say, Mrs. Garadeb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garadeb's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the 2. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garadeb and how she reacts, even to the things other people say. Alright, jury examination time. The defense's rebuttal. Alright, so, out of everyone here, the only one so far that caught my eye was number 6. Because he talked about a fire in his home as well, I think. A novel alternative. Even if the room was storing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window's closed, can it? And a little book, hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. Look, I just want to get this over with. Alright. Hold it! Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in the case? Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake. Was it some kind of devil worship? Of course not. It was an angel cake, to celebrate my birthday, obviously. It seems that's common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Nuttleholder. Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught, and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a code. But how did you catch a code from a fire? What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open it all. We had to open all the windows to clear it. The windows. The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave. It did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in a hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along, but something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. So, we can relate that story to what happened with Mr. Garadeb. During the fight, they probably opened up the window to let out some of the smoke. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street, as well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes, I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit. Alright. I've altered their explanation about how the victim was stabbed. Even if the woman was storing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? And there it is. I'm gonna... boom. And then I'll hit you with Warehouse and Fire. War fires are dire. You have to open the windows to clear the smoke. That's when the choke gets you. Yup. Boom. And let's go. Objection! These two juror statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What's that you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up. Juror number 3, do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh, exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household, and Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh, my hat! Therefore, to clear the smoke, either Mr. Garadeb or his wife almost certainly opened the window. I missed her reaction. I'll come back to it. Therefore, to clear the smoke, either Mr. Garadeb or his wife almost certainly opened the window. That you cannot deny would be in no way out of the ordinary. Oh, I can still do it. Perfect. No, I suppose it wouldn't. Alright, let's look around. Let's look around. No. No. Hi. And now, let's play.
Excuse me!
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Mrs. Garrett. Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire. Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mr. Garadev's formal statement. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. Winter house fires are dire. You have to open windows to clear the smoke. That's when the chill gets you see? So the window was open when the Garadevs were arguing that day. Yes, Mrs. Garadev has finally admitted to it, which is a very significant victory for the defense. I feel like the fog's starting to clear and an alternative explanation to this case is starting to show itself. Okay, he's left behind evidence. So here's the other thing. I did not finish my conversation with juror number 3 when I pitted him against number 6. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. Yep, see, it's not done. I have to... Alright, one more time.
Objection! Hold it!
I'm a banker, don't forget, an educated man. There's no contradiction as far as I can see. Oh, I can do it again. Okay. I will not permit whimsical attack. Fine. I thought I didn't... Alright. Fine, whatever. You can do this. Every juror, Mr. Naruhodo. You can decide where the contradictions really lie, if there are any. The windows could have been open when the woman was throwing books. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Now you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true. Alright then, fine.
Hold it!
The 4th book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garadev told us he had been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on as well as you know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less a little of it. The title of it, sorry. Alright, let's play. Hello there, sir. What are you reacting for in such a roundabout way? Hold on. Let's go.
Excuse me!
What is it, juror number 5? You know something? I remembered what it was, that memory I'd blocked out. Ah. It was listening to what this granny was saying, brought it all flooding back. Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garadeb, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back from home after work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I had just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. No? The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost a day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear. Stuck into the wall next to me, it did. About an inch deep. Ah, so he was blocking the memory of being abused himself by his own wife. No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know, the god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. Now that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Mr. Nadahodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. I like how she's trying to defend herself. No, I wasn't even thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. So you would rather go with your Susato takedown then. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. Oh, or, okay. What? Attack? Who are you gonna attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. A woman in a rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought that home to me. You, sir, have something in common with this lady. Okay. Now that you mention it, yes, the window was open at the time. I've been forgotten, but it's true. A woman in rage will hurl almost anything at you. The kitchen knife really brought it home to me. Hold on a second, no. There was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed I might reconsider. A woman in rage will hurl almost anything to the kitchen. Ah, there you go. No, that makes more sense. I was okay, because nothing matched with Mrs. Garadeb anymore. Okay.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the 4th book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garadeb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garadeb household to the street below. Huh? What's that now? After all, Mrs. Garadeb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, you Eastern Gala. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it? I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't had any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garadeb household to the scene of the crime was the jackknife. Yep. Okay.
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadeb. What now? I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Good Lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garadeb was hurling anything she could at her husband, who had been backed up against a window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that. The book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Huh? Even my Mrs. Cat hasn't got a name like that. Yes, I admit there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point, and that's precisely why we must not allow this trial to end, not right now. Oh my. Mrs. Garadeb, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, she fainted. My lord. I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word after all. Thank you, madam. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman? I have to agree. Not that I think the granny didn't mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. Ah, thank you. Gosh. We did it? Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So, as a result of the defense summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided. And this trial will continue. Whew, okay. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. You drinking your wine with the same amount of hallowed chalices that you have is a farce in and of itself. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. Oh, see? Look at this. How many times have you wasted this? But what follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, the defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond, but let me start by insisting that you must all familiarize yourselves better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and the Garadeb household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. Which means that the distance from the Garadeb's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards? Let me see, 15 yards. That's around 14 meters. 14 meters? That's a little farther than I imagined. And, as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly noted as having portentous significance, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book wantonly hurled by the lady of the house traveled some 15 yards to land on the opposite side of the road, neatly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb. Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge into the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. Ah! There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Mr. Sato, serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? As judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense. Yes, go ahead. The prosecution may consider the idea a fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its leaning. And as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Miss Joanne Garrida, must be called to testify and submit to cross-examination. Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Order! Order! Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
My god, how many times has this guy broken, like, several hollowed chalices as well as wine bottles? And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks! There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony the defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth in it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would be able to testify accordingly. What say you, witnesses? Yes, sir. Constable Rolly Beat, reporting for duty, sir. Well. Good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing off until now, sir. I haven't slept for a month on account of a villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. I was gonna say baubles. Patricia, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero. Make me swoon. Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh. And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir. Here we go. This case has nothing to do with Mr. and Mrs. Garrida, believe me, and a London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows on the top floor of the Garrida house are top-hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go and fetch help, but my trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Well, this is quite startling. Top hinged casement windows? That detail was not in the police report, Constable. Yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. Yeah, no, sir. I was gonna say yes, sir. Sorry, but what exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. Of course. Sorry. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows in Mr. and Mrs. Garadev's room. Alright, I'll try. So the window opens in order to allow air to circulate inside the house. But as its top hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see. I'm glad you rectified your ignorance. A casement's window most prominent feature is its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents its opening. This is all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or a knife were to have been thrown through the open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No. You see the problem then? Good. Your education in Windows is complete. Alright guys, I'm going to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. Until the next one.